Hey there and welcome back to another DreamWorks video. And last year, we saw the release of Kung Fu Panda: The Dragon Knight, and oh boy, that was a doozy of a show, wasn't it? Had to be one of the worst butcherings of a DreamWorks character that I'd seen for quite a long time, and was just genuinely bad in so many ways. The animation was poor, the script was bad, the voice acting abysmal, and worst of all, my boy, Po the Panda, Kung Fu Master, the Dragon Warrior, the most powerful man in China, or bear. He was reduced to an embarrassing loser, kind of like what he was at the start of the first movie. So they backtracked all his development across the movies and shows and forced him to play second fiddle to some lame European knight character, who also kind of sucked. On top of that, the villains were kind of cringy, and not in a way that made them funny and compelling, but more, get them off my screen, their voices hurt my ears. All in all, the first season, pretty much a disaster, and made me never want to watch it ever again. But since I'm a sucker for punishment, I did actually go ahead and watch this latest season. Obviously, otherwise this video wouldn't exist. And yeah, I was expecting to die a little bit inside, but ultimately, I came away pleasantly surprised. And I don't think the show's becoming an all-time great, but it had some definite improvement. But before all of that, I suppose I'd better actually explain what even happened this season, as I firmly doubt that a lot of people are going to have watched the show simply based on the quality of the first season. So, yeah. At the end of the last season, our heroes had banded together to form a team dedicated to chasing down Klaus and Veruca, with their goal of taking back the weapons that they had in their possession, whilst also trying to find the other magic weapons. And whilst this is going on, Klaus and Veruca have sailed across to the Americas and encountered an old ally whom they betray to take one of the weapons from him. All the while, Po and the gang are embroiled in a heist in India, where with the help of one of Rukmini's friends, Dia, they're able to take possession of the pendant of Master Mastodon, who possesses Mr. Ping, and then leads them across to the Americas as well to find the last of the weapons, the Storm Wheels. Here they encounter the city of Tikal, ruled by Queen Zuma, who owns the wheels, or at least one of the wheels. And it turns out she's actually a truly terrible person, or jaguar thing. And she screws over other cities using the power of the wheels to make rain fall regularly on the farms of her people, whilst others suffer in drought. She and Veruca come into conflict, with Zuma stealing Veruca's weapons before in turn being defeated by Po, who's able to take possession of all of the weapons except one half of the Storm Wheels. At which point they learn that Alfie, Luthera's deceased older brother, had taken one of these Storm Wheels back to England with him on a previous journey. And so the gang packs up their gear and they take a ship headed towards England, which is where our tale ends. For this season at least. Because with a cliffhanger like that, it's obviously going to continue into season 3. And then, who knows, but honestly, based on the pacing of the season and the fact that they're going to be ending up in England, I think the third season is probably the conclusion to this show. And so, yeah, props should be given to DreamWorks TV for this season because it really is a massive step up from the first season and has really improved in almost every respect. It feels like they saw everything that didn't work in the first season and then said, well, let's change all of that. Which is a bit odd to say based on the length of time between them, because surely they would have had to have been in production at the same time. The release dates are quite close together. I mean, maybe as they worked their way along, everybody just got better at their jobs. Maybe COVID played a role. I guess we'll never really know, but all I can say is that this season really did improve on everything. I mean, even the visuals, which I actually found surprising, as I think it would be much easier to actually improve the script and performance quality, whilst it would be harder to be able to find the budget to make the animation look a lot better. But I honestly do think the animation quality's improved quite a lot. I mean, it's not setting the world on fire by any means at this point, but, it's a DreamWorks TV show. You get what you get. But it's no longer distractingly bad either, so that's a plus. And I think the show also helped itself through variance in visual design. It wasn't all based in China with the same buildings, the same environments over and over again. They didn't copy and paste it. They go to India and Central America. New designs. New trees and buildings and characters and costumes. And it did add a lot to the story. And it helped that it felt like more effort was put into designing these places than when it was set in China and every town was exactly the same. I mean, to be fair, maybe if we'd seen more of India and more of the Americas, we would have eventually got back to that feeling of it all feeling exactly the same. But since they only made like 1 or 2 towns, it worked out a whole lot better, as they never had that risk of making everything feel too homogenous. Another bonus was the script. The first season had a script that was deeply cringy, like truly woefully cringe. A complete and utter disaster. The jokes were bad, the dialogue was stilted and wooden, the story and character progression was lacking. Here they made a lot of strides to actually improve upon these aspects of the show. No longer was Po just a bumbling incompetent, but They remembered he's actually supposed to be the most powerful kung fu master in the world. He actually does things of note, and he doesn't just get his ass handed to him at every turn. Maybe the writers got around to actually watching the films. And on top of that, Luthera actually developed a personality this season. Well, a personality beyond treating Po like a nuisance and her own personal punching bag. On top of that, the side characters really shined. Especially Mr. Ping. God, I love Mr. Ping. And on top of that, I feel like the writers used the less is more technique when dealing with the villains. Veruca, Klaus, even Zuma. They have personalities that work best in small doses. Too much leaves them feeling overexposed and annoying. Not enough, and the story feels like it lacks any real depth or stakes. But here, they actually managed to strike that balance quite well, largely through separating the storylines and breaking things up quite a lot. The first arc follows Po and the gang in India, while a much smaller arc at the same time has Veruca and Klaus find and betray the mages. And then we hit the America arc, which has a lot of smaller subsections to it. But for the most part, it follows the heroes, with the villains taking a back seat. And it's just so well structured and well paced. The story doesn't linger, and it endeavours to keep things moving, to keep things fresh. So yeah, props to that for sure. I mean, the only part I didn't really like and found a bit ridiculous was when they revealed that Luthera's brother had come to America from England. But not by crossing the Atlantic or anything like that, but sailing all the way around Africa, across the Indian Ocean, and then across the Pacific. I mean, because he comes in from the west, you see that. Just like Po and the gang did when they came from India. And then he leaves that way too, so this voyage would have taken years with those ships. Wait, what? Plus, Po and the gang literally are leaving that way. So how long is this trip back going to take? I know it's a cartoon, but I can't help but think about how silly that is. Like, this seems to be a world that's far more interconnected than in reality. After all, birds can travel, and birds talk in this world. So did nobody think to tell him you can just cross the Atlantic and get there much faster? No? But yeah, it is a silly little nitpick, not something to take too seriously. Although, in terms of poor story development, I thought introducing the pirate plotline so early in the story, only to have it do actually nothing and set up for Season 3's first arc instead, was quite wasteful. I think they could have done more with that throughout the first part of the season, even if it was just a couple more scenes to remind you that they do exist, that they're still there. I mean, it's not a huge gripe, and I do like that they're saving some stuff for next season and planting seeds early, but I think they could have done a bit more with it too. And so honestly, my only real major issue with the show these days is still just the voice acting. It has come leaps and bounds from the dark days of Season 1. After all, in Season 1, the villains made my ears bleed, and Luthera was wooden as all hell, and even Jack Black as Po was not hitting his highs. This season though, improvement all round. Po was back and better than ever. The side characters were well voiced. Luthera had improved. There's still some pretty cringy moments where her tone's off and her delivery is kind of robotic, and I still do not like Veruca's voice at all, but like I said, much improved. But apart from that, this season, it was actually genuinely good. I went into it expecting to hate it, thinking it would be an absolute slogfest, but in the end, I was actually quite pleasantly surprised. The season was good, nothing revolutionary, but good, genuine fun. And I think it does deserve a lot of praise for turning things around that quickly, for making me invested in the story and the characters after not giving a shit. And so now, I'm actually quite excited to see where things go from here. And so yeah, that's the end of the review and the end of the video. And I would like to remind you that these are just my opinions, and now I'd like to hear yours. If you've seen it, what did you think of Season 2 of The Dragon Knight? You like it, hate it? I'm curious for your thoughts, so make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and let me know.